Hey, welcome back to the SNS College Football Podcast. This is the this year 2019 award show. Essentially, in this pod, we're not going to recap anything playoff wise. I think in the next few weeks, we're going to have a couple more pods where we might pick out some of the New Year's Six bowl games to talk about. Maybe a couple other random bowls that we'll get more into the gambling aspect of the pod, which is what the main reason we even put this up. But uh, and then obviously we'll get into a playoff breakdown and talk about that as we get closer to that date. But tonight we're gonna go through a bunch of awards that our own Dave from Houston, aka Tolman, came up with. They are pretty hilarious, and I think you guys will enjoy the episode. So it's really just we'll have some positive stuff in there. We're also going to make fun of a bunch of people because that's what we do. So without further ado, Tolman, take it away.
Yeah, so the idea is we talk every week about winners and losers of the week. So these awards are meant to capture the winners and losers in different ways. And then at the end, we're going to decide who our actual winner and our actual loser of the season is. So as I typically like to do, I'll start positive. The first award, this is the Marshawn Lynch Put the Team on My Back award. This is the player that single-handedly is responsible for the team's success or just like overall performance above, how good we thought they'd be this year. So, Nick, candidates for the Team on My Back award.
Yeah, we've got Lynn Bowden of Kentucky. Story behind him this year is that he was supposed to be a wide receiver. Kentucky had a bunch of injuries, so he stepped in at quarterback. John Reese Plumley, is that correct?
Yeah, John Reese Plumley at Ole Miss.
Yeah, so John Reese Plumley stepped in at Ole Miss. They were not a very good offense at the beginning of the year, but he stepped in and really fits what Rich Rodriguez does. He made them a much more potent offense at the end of the year. They're still not very talented overall, and Elijah Moore kind of cost that. We're going to get into that player in a little bit here, but he is a guy that cost Matt Luke possibly his job, and not possibly, I think he definitely did. So, but yeah, John Reese Plumlee stepped in, put the offense and perhaps the team on his back at the end, and kept Ole Miss quite competitive. And then our very own Mr. Fumbles, aka Bryce Perkins of Virginia. Now, it's interesting because we have him listed for maybe a few different awards, but if you really think about it, Virginia pretty atrocious if he wasn't in there offensively. Like maybe even more anemic than what maybe Georgia looks like right now, or if you get into maybe some of the worst teams like Rutgers or Akron or teams like that. But yeah, Bryce Perkins.
I can't name you a skill player on Virginia, so
yeah,
right. yeah, pretty telling right there. Yeah, Addison, do you have any other candidates for this award?
One I was just thinking about, KJ Hamler, kind of for Penn State's offense.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's a good candidate. I mean,
maybe a guy like Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah, because they had a few. They had a few injuries at receiver, and they really had to rely on him. And I'm not actually sure if he's even playing in that bowl game now, since he's declaring for the draft. I'm pretty sure, but yeah, that's a pretty good one too.
Yeah, I like out of all those, I like Lynn Bowden a lot, just because that Kentucky offense, the opponent knew exactly what they were doing, and he still was like the most efficient runner for the second half of the season in the country. So I think that'd be my vote.
I vote Bowden. I don't even think it's close. Kentucky, I think, made a bowl game because of him. So I think the award should definitely go to him.
Yeah. All right. Well,
I mean, I totally agree too, because like when we knew that they were going to be starting him at quarterback, honestly, did you think they were going to win another game this year?
Nope. I bet against them multiple times because of that, and it cost me.
He averaged 8.2 yards per carry. Like Tolman said, like the other team knows what they're going to be doing.
Yeah.
It's just really funny to see an offense just run the Wildcat every play, and at a major conference team like that, and actually look like pretty good doing it.
Right.
So yeah, I really like the. And also another funny thing. So he declared early, didn't he?
I believe so.
Yeah, I thought I saw that he did. So, how much did him playing quarterback help his draft stock this year?
Oh yeah.
Honestly, I think it did a lot, just because people see how good of an athlete he is.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, I think that we talked about him a little bit before. It's just a selfless act for him to step into a position that he wasn't, supposed to play. And like I said, I think he's a huge reason of why they salvaged their season a little bit and were able to make a bowl game. And I think Stoops has got a pretty good thing going on there at Kentucky. I really like what he's doing there. So
yeah, we're actually going to we might talk about that program a little bit later, but the first official SNS award goes to Lynn Bowden, the Marshawn Lynch put the team on my back award.
Boom. All
yeah.
right.
Okay, so next award is kind of the opposite here. We've got the D. Reynolds Award for person that single-handedly ruined a team season. So D ruins it all, always.
Yeah.
And Addison, do you want to give your candidates?
Well, I like the ones that we've got on the dock. So Elijah Moore, pretty obvious one there. Blowing the Egg Bowl because of, I don't know, that's a very bizarre celebration, and cost them the game pretty much in the big rivalry game at the end of the year. So,
and then led to so many more things, like coach getting fired, players transferring.
Yeah, that was a pretty wild sequence of events that kind of unraveled after that for Ole Miss.
Or maybe a good thing. I don't know. We could talk all night about how we think Lane's going to do there.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, we talked about, we didn't think that Matt Luke was ever the guy anyway. So
No.
Could work out in the long run for them. But Hunter Johnson's another one. At the start of the year, he just was terrible for Northwestern. And then Chad Morris.
They had a good defense. I think.
Yeah, they did
a respectable defense at least.
Yeah, I think as the season wore on, they just, they're good for most of the year, and it's hard to play consistently good defense when your offense sucks as bad as Northwestern's did. They were better at the end of the year, a little bit, just because some of those other quarterbacks were in the game. So
yeah, they thought they were cool getting a 4-star talent.
Yeah.
I vote for Moore. I don't even think it's close. I mean, it's so amazing to me that one celebration had such a trickle down effect. There's just a huge ripple as far as you lose. Tolman and I covered this in the last pod. You lose to your rival, you then lose your coach because he gets fired because of basically how the season ended and them losing that game, the record they had, and then a bunch of players left the program. So I mean, Elijah Moore, I think the other two are good candidates. I think they both definitely sucked ass this year, but Elijah Moore, I mean, he has to win this award, right? I mean, this is I think it's pretty
this
clear.
Seems like an easy one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think Elijah Moore is D. Reynolds this year.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
Okay. All right. The next one is the Andy Reid Punt, Pass, and Kick Award. Y'all remember that video of 12-year-old Andy Reid, just bigger, obviously bigger than everybody else, like a man child out there.
Yeah.
So this is for most obvious advantage that was exploited. So just didn't seem like the playing field was even. I'll give a couple ones that I have here on the list, and then let you guys maybe add some more and we can talk about it. So I like just an offense, whatever offense is on the field against the UMass defense.
Yeah.
They were just I think they were like the worst defense ever. Every
Yeah.
time I checked the box score, they had given up like 700 yards of total offense
Yep.
this year. Another one I liked. Actually, the first game of the year, Florida defensive line against the terrible Miami Hurricane offensive line. I think they had 10 sacks in that game. When and that was like really the difference in the game.
Yeah.
Even though Florida was overall playing horribly.
Right.
Yeah. Nick, do you have any other?
Yeah.
I saw you put a couple on here.
Yeah, there was one that I added, and I remember this because it was one of my best bets. So I had back on November 2nd, Boston College. I think I had them +3 or something like that at Syracuse, and the main reason I took them in that game was I thought that BC would be able to run the ball on them, and good God, did they. 65 attempts for 496 yards. And I think all year long it was pretty obvious that you could exploit Syracuse by running the ball. So that is an absurd amount of attempts, an absurd yards per carry stat for a team that's not a triple option team. Like it's just amazing to me. So I felt like that I think that one had to be a candidate here.
Yeah. Addison, do you have anything to add here?
I know what my vote would be.
All right, then why don't you give the vote then?
I think that UMass deserves to get an award.
Yeah, they need an award, right?
So,
yeah.
Yeah, they definitely need one. And yeah, it was just so easy to do anything on their defense. It didn't matter who it was. Like it could be Rutgers, who is always terrible on offense, and they put up like 50-something points on them. Northwestern put up 40-something on them. Like, it didn't matter who it was. Like,
yeah.
How about we'll send UMass their trophy with Rutgers, kind of like Andy Reid, and then their defense just swirled around it. That's what the trophy's gonna look like for UMass.
Yeah. There you go. All right. Next award.
All right. This next one, we should have some fun here. The I'm a Man, I'm 40 award for most egregious media moment. It could be good or bad. It could be positive. It could be like happy outburst. Could be a crazy rant. But what was the I'm a Man, I'm 40 award for this year? Nick, you want to start with your candidates?
Yeah, I've got a few. I actually have a guy that I told him on Twitter he needed to delete this take, and I'm trying to remember his exact name. I think it's like George Wrightster or something, out in Los Angeles. But he had a take that I'm gonna type it in the doc here so you guys can see it. But he basically said that he had 2018 OSU fans saying that Joe Burrow's trash and he doesn't need to be there. And then 2019 OSU, whether it's Barstool OSU, OSU's official handle creating these funny memes or pictures that have the Heisman candidates, and it has Chase Young, Justin Fields, obviously both going to New York, and then it has Joe Burrow as a joke in his OSU uniform. And so this guy's basically saying OSU fans were dogging him, they didn't want him, and now they're trying to claim him like he's one of ours, when this guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. We have loved that guy ever since he was a Buckeye day one. We were rooting for him because we understood why he left when Haskins won the job. So this guy, I felt like that was a very egregious media moment for him. Another quick one that's OSU related was Don Brown on. It was a couple of former Michigan players. I think it was their podcast saying that Ohio State should be careful this year. That's absurd because Michigan, of course, hadn't beat us in 7 straight games. We just scored 62 on them the year before. And then this year we decided to hang another 50-burger on Don Brown's defense. So him saying we should be careful, yeah, he was right. We didn't score 60 this time, so congrats, Don. But yeah.
He's still giving up 110 to us in the last 2 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, who do you got?
Yeah, I saw that tweet, Nick,
Yeah.
from George Wrightster.
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought the same thing. I've literally never seen or heard an Ohio State fan bash Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
In fact, it seems like everyone was rooting for him, like the entire year, and wanted to see LSU do well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was really dumb. I think that Ohio State fans they generally want to see. Even if guys leave the program, they still want to see him do well.
Yeah.
Especially a guy like him who's from Ohio
and like
grew up
a good guy. Yeah.
He grew up a Buckeye. Like he's been a Buckeye his whole life. Like it's not like something that
he graduated. He didn't really transfer.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, Tolman, I see a couple others on there. You want to talk about those?
Yeah, I'd throw. I mean, we always have to put Pirate in there. He had a kind of a funny, sad moment where he called his players like fat, dumb, and entitled.
Yeah.
And their season really didn't go the right way.
Yeah.
Just in a more positive one, pretty much any like pregame or postgame interview with Coach O.
Yeah.
That would actually be. Maybe it's just because like I just love Coach O and in his relationship with Louisiana. That would probably be my vote, but sounds like it's going to this George Wrightster fellow. Is that?
I got one more suggestion.
Okay.
Clay Travis this past weekend.
Oh God, yeah.
At halftime of the Ohio State game, he tweeted he was going into the day. He obviously wanted LSU to jump Ohio State in the college football playoff poll. So at halftime, he didn't waste any chance to bash Ohio State, talking about how the committee should talk about putting Wisconsin in over Ohio State. And obviously, we made them look stupid in the second half. So that didn't even end up mattering. So
yeah,
I would throw him in there too. He's good at making tweets that end up looking pretty stupid in hindsight, I'd say.
Yeah, he is horrific at capping games too, and like that's kind of mainly what our pod's about. And so I would say to any of you watching, if you follow Clay Travis, you're probably really well off just fading him all year, and you'll probably make money. So yeah,
and he cheats on the lines too.
Yeah, he definitely does. Like he like lists lines that either weren't such a thing or only were available if like you were in Vegas. And like the thing that's annoying about it is he sells this subscription, and like he basically it's interesting because he says that it's about like getting his book, you get like a t-shirt, but he really is like touting his picks, and they're awful. So he's an interesting fellow. That's the way I guess I'll put it. But Addison, that's a pretty good one. That definitely deserves to be on there. As far as my vote, I think I have to stick with Wrightster. I just feel like this guy just doesn't know what he's talking about. Like it was such a terrible take. And I think it's probably me just being a homer and being a part of Buckeye Nation and loving Joe Burrow, but this guy for me is my nomination. What about you, Addison?
I don't know. I like the Pirate, so I'm just gonna say the Pirate.
Damn. So Tolman, what do we?
I'm sure he said something.
Tolman, what do we do? Do we have like co-winners then?
No, we don't have co-winners. There's only one winner. I think if it's if we can't decide, then we'll go to like the most recent, like who would be the title belt holder here. So I think Pirate gets the award for the I'm a man, I'm 40. Yeah.
All right, give it to him. Yeah.
Yeah, we can make these awards in the title belts if we need to. So
that's fine.
Pirate for a midseason call out of his team retains the I'm a man, I'm 40 award. All right.
Okay.
So all right. So the next award is the Inglourious Bastards Award. Badass movie.
Yeah.
But this is going to be for the most dominant non-skill position unit. So like, historically you could think of like just like a menacing Alabama defensive line that's all going to the NFL that you'd be scared of. So Addison, do you have any nominees for the Inglourious Bastards most dominant non-glorious position unit?
I don't have any others besides what we've got listed, but I think the ones we have on here are pretty good. So we have the Ohio State interior offensive line, the Cal D front seven, and the Auburn D line. Ohio State offensive line, especially if you've seen Wyatt Davis in particular play this year, he has been freaking unbelievable this year. Like he's just killing people. He's fun to watch. So if you have a chance to watch like just some Ohio State highlights, look at that guy in particular, a right guard. He's just been destroying people this year.
Yeah, him, Josh Myers, and then Jonah Jackson at left guard. They are what you would call road graders. There has not been a defensive tackle duo that has been able to keep those guys from not only moving them but getting to the second level versus some of these teams. So I think that they're definitely a candidate. Obviously, Auburn, their defensive line all year long, elite, 2 first-round draft picks on that line, I would say. And then Tolman, did you want to talk about Cal a little bit? I didn't know if you had any.
Yeah, sure. So I'll do that, and then I'll get to what I think is going to be the vote here.
Sure.
But Auburn defensive line, I'm going to knock them down just a little bit because they, although they got to the quarterback, they just didn't create a lot of sacks.
Mm-hmm.
Though they were, a lot of tackles for loss in the run game, but just not a lot of sacks. I really like the Cal D in here just because every time I watch them, their linebacker Evan Weaver he tackled everything.
Yeah.
Like he just I felt like he just did all the dirty work and never missed any tackles. But it sounds like, and I would agree here. I'll put this in as my vote. The Ohio State interior offensive lineman gets the award for me.
Yeah, I'm 100% rooting for OSU. I think, little teaser here, and this is not any means by who I'm picking in the Fiesta Bowl or anything yet, because I've dug into that game a little bit to try to cap it. But Clemson's D line, they're only 5 pounds heavier on average than what Michigan's front 4 was, and their front 7 this year, although very fast. A lot of talent there as far as athleticism. Pretty curious to see what their plan is for those 3 guys because those 3 guys are men and they are NFL interior offensive linemen. And I think that's going to be an interesting matchup in that game. So I root for OSU and those 3 guys.
Yeah, Nick, I like that you mentioned that too because we brought up on the pod before the Michigan game, that point about their D line being a little smaller. So, we'll see if that, applies in that game as well.
Right.
But yeah, I'm going to make it 3 for 3 here and go with the Ohio State interior offensive line. The fact that we've just been able to all year just wear teams down, just kind of assert our will in the second half of games.
Yeah.
That's a dominant group.
For sure.
Yeah. Definitely love all the clips that made it out there on the interwebs about them just knocking people over.
Yeah.
Sometimes on the same play, Wyatt Davis taking out 2 people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Ohio State interior offensive line gets the Inglorious Bastards Award.
Nice.
I think the next one probably is going to be really fun.
Yeah.
A lot to discuss here. But this is the Netflix DVDs award. So remember in the 2000s when you had to order DVDs, they were really clunky, and from this company called Netflix that no one had ever heard of.
Right.
Well, you should have invested in them because you'd be a billionaire now.
Yeah.
So this is going to be for the program that's kind of clunky right now, but is really well positioned for success over the next say 3 to 5 years. So Nick, do you want to give your candidates on this one?
Yeah, I guess I'll mention a few that I don't remember who all I added here. I'm going to talk about a couple, though. Purdue is the first one that's listed on the doc, and I talked about Purdue a little bit, I think, with you, Tolman, on the last pod, that Jeff Brom did an amazing job this year. All the injuries that they had, they were down to their 4th-string walk-on quarterback at the end of the year, and still were very competitive. Almost beat Indiana in their rivalry game, and Indiana was no slouch this year. They actually were pretty solid. But I think that this is a team that we were down on this year, and rightfully so. And maybe if they didn't have the injuries, maybe they would have proven us wrong. But this is a team that I'm 100%. As soon as these win totals come out, this next year, I'm looking to hammer Purdue's over. I think that what you could argue against Purdue is that it might be a little tricky to recruit there. I'm thinking a little bit about like the recruiting pipelines and who these teams have to recruit against, but Brom's done such a good job that if they can keep him around for, a little bit longer, I think that's a team that really does fit as a good candidate for this award. I guess one more that I want to mention as well that I thought pretty hard about, Arizona State, which surprisingly 2 years ago, I don't think I ever would have mentioned this, but I have to give Herm Edwards credit. He's done a really good job as far as hiring the right guys around him. His coordinators, his staff is really good there. I think they have the ability to recruit California, the higher populated areas of Arizona, and you can get some players in there. But I think that's a program that I think could be on the up here if Herm can keep his staff intact for the most part. And I know that he just lost. I think either maybe I don't remember. I think Hugh Jackson has taken on a bigger role, which, we make fun of Hugh all we want as a head coach. But, I think he's got, a lot of experience that will help Herm out. So, yeah, I think Purdue and Arizona State are two pretty solid candidates.
Yeah, Addison, your candidates for this one?
Well, we've also got Kentucky and USC. I like a couple of the teams we've already mentioned.
Yeah.
Purdue, their recruiting has been a lot better. Like just last year, they were 25th in the country.
And getting some serious game breaker like receiver talent. That guy, David Bell. Now they got two guys with healthy next year. That could be scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, Plummer, the quarterback, he's shown a lot of promise.
Right.
Bryson Hopkins, is he back next year? He's an all Big Ten tight end. So, they'll have a bunch of guys. Should be, really fun offense. It was a really young team this year, and, with better injury luck, they could do a lot better next year. So, that's a program that I've liked going forward, so kind of giving away the pick there. That's who I would go with.
Yeah, so I gave some preference here to like really good coaching situations that I like. So at Kentucky, Stoops has shown that with some kind of like the second tier talent that he's getting from the Midwest and from the South is doing a great job of like coaching them and even getting some guys to the NFL. So. I think he's going to be staying there for a while. North Carolina with Mac Brown already getting some top recruiting classes, and they've got Howell for at least the next 2 years,
right?
To propel them forward. Also, I just really like the Louisville coaching staff this year. Scott Satterfield, that program I felt like a disaster last year, and they were more than respectable this year, but Purdue would be my vote.
Yeah, and we didn't even mention we got Cal on there, and it's Berkeley, so like the question players wanting to, I guess, necessarily play there. But if Justin Wilcox could get a quarterback, I truly believe that's a program that could compete in the Pac-12 because of how good of a defensive coach he is, especially in the back seven. So Cal.
Yeah, to me, he's just like I'm just not convinced that he's gonna be there long term. Like the other coaching situations, I think they'll be there for a while.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I always like Cal too.
Yeah.
You told me. Remember before the beginning of the year, you were like, "Why do you guys like Cal so much?"
Yes. Because they're a team I never. I think I watched them at all the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're just a tough team. They're really annoying to play against, it seems like.
It sounds like we're giving the award to Purdue, I would say, because I think that's a very deserving program right now. And I really do think if they could have a little better injury luck, like Addison said, I think if If they could somehow fire Nick Holt, because I think he's a terrible defensive coordinator, then I think
thought
that
they
would.
didn't they part ways?
Oh, I don't know. If they did, then
I think that happened.
I'm looking that up. Here, you go ahead and give the award out, and then I'm looking this up because that's a big deal.
Yeah,
That's true. Yeah.
So we like Cal a little bit, but we need to.
Oh yeah, he's out,
not
dude.
100%.
He's out,
Yeah,
dude.
so
Purdue
like
wins
Cal
the
a little bit,
award.
Not 100% confident, but
Yeah,
Nick Holt's out.
yeah, he is 100% out. Purdue wins the award 100% now.
All right, yeah. So yeah, I think Purdue Brom stays for a while, getting some good talent. Invest in those Purdue DVDs.
I mean, there's no reason that Purdue can't do what Minnesota did this year.
Yeah, well, Minnesota probably won this award last year.
Yeah.
And looks like they're going to have continuity. PJ got that extension.
Right.
So
that's that's kind of the model that Purdue is looking at. A lot of good playmakers on offense, not necessarily like that's the side of the ball you build on.
Right.
So yeah. So that will hopefully make. I thought the Big Ten West was more competitive this year, and Purdue getting this award, can make it even better going forward.
Sure.
So yeah. So all right. So we'll move on to the Tamagotchi Award. I guess Tamagotchis or Gigapets. Remember those digital pets that you cleaned up their shit?
Yeah, I had all those.
Yeah.
So, I had Digimon too.
Awesome fad, hot for a minute. But was like
I think we need to bring them back though.
Well, some of these on here think they're back. But yeah, so this is the fad that hot for a minute, but it was really stupid, not sustainable for the year. The one that I had was wearing helmets on the bus.
Yeah.
I think Sparty did it, lost. Penn State did it, lost to Ohio State. Franklin loves to copy those gimmicks.
Right.
Canes did it, lost to Duke. That's my candidate, and that's my vote. I thought that was so stupid.
Yeah, so I'll list a couple.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there's a couple other candidates. We have Maryland and Texas football. Obviously, Maryland the first few weeks of the year, and we're going to kind of get into them again in the next award. But they started out really hot, and then they showed their true colors and how shitty they truly are. Texas. This podcast was really down on Texas. We all bet their season total under. And then blackouts, yeah, like we've discussed this before. I think those are also just stupid, quick fad that was hot for a minute. Obviously not sustainable. But I think my vote would definitely be for the wearing the helmets on the bus. I mean, what's the point? Like, what are you doing? I don't get it. Like, it's just stupid. So yeah, Addison, your nomination.
This is tough.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with, because I'm thinking about Maryland or Texas.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with Maryland.
Yeah, I think if you go with
the fact that
go ahead.
Yeah, so that team, they got ranked early in the season after 2 games, after beating 2 terrible teams.
Yeah.
And just because they put up a lot of points, and they had Mike Locksley, new coach from Alabama, everyone all of a sudden thought that Maryland, was going to be really good now. And that ended really fast. So next week they play Temple. We'll get into that more.
Right.
But it's just funny how the trajectory of their season went,
Right.
Because they beat, I think it was Howard week 1.
Yep.
Yeah, it was like 79-0.
Yeah, and then they beat a very overrated Syracuse team, and then as a result of that, Maryland was very overrated. So, and then it just plummeted after that. So yeah, Maryland is going to be my vote.
Yeah. So I think that's a good vote, but I think we're giving it to wearing helmets on the bus. Hopefully we never see that again.
I kind of hope. Yeah. We
if you see a team pulling up to the stadium wearing helmets on the bus, make sure you slam the other team in the last second bet.
Yeah.
I did that. I bet Duke, and they won on the field as like 8.5-point underdogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Second, we saw that tweet. Okay, so we'll send a Tamagotchi to
Anybody
all the
wearing
coaches
helmets.
that made their players wear helmets on the bus.
Yeah.
The next award is like even shorter term success. So this is the Linsanity Award. So this is like a moment from the season that was just like complete heat check. Like someone came off the bench, hit like 7 threes in a row, but were irrelevant for absolutely outside of like the rest of the season.
Right.
So Nick, do you have any nominations for the Linsanity Award?
Yeah, so I see you got Matt Fink up there. That's a great one. That's possibly the winner. The other one that I decided to put up there is, in fact, a Maryland player, their quarterback, Justin Jackson, from those first 2 weeks that we already alluded to. I mean, he looked pretty good. We were giving Corey from Denver shit for him transferring and or like grad transferring and actually looking pretty good, but in fact that was just a mirage. And then he ended up, I think, like, it's actually crazy. I thought he broke his leg and was out for the year, but then he was back or something, or I don't know what happened, but
yeah, it looked like he had a bad leg injury. I thought he was for sure done, but then magically he was playing against Ohio State.
Yeah, apparently he doesn't only just have a noodle arm, he has noodle legs, and they just don't break.
And he like seemed to make his offense worse at times. Like I thought they were better with like Pegram or Duso or whatever that guy.
Yeah, I honestly thought that they should have just tried to run the ball every play with like Pegram or something, go like triple option.
Yeah. But yeah, those are the only, I mean, the two that we have on there are the only two that I decided to put time into thinking about. So yeah, are there any others? Like Addison, can you think of any other guys?
Yeah.
I don't have any off the top of my head, but I think Matt Fink's a really good really good one here.
That's who I would pick to win.
Utah, like he just came in and just lit them up.
Yeah.
And if you watch that game, it was just like he was just throwing the ball up.
It's just a complete joke. Like,
yeah. He
was just throwing it up.
That game, even during that game, I was like, they can't do this the entire game.
Yeah.
and they did, and they pulled it out. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all right. So Matt Fink for his one game of fame against Utah takes the Linsanity Award.
I think we should just send him
another one.
We should just send him a Jeremy Lin jersey.
Yeah. What?
We should just send him a Jeremy Lin Knicks jersey.
Yes. Yes.
Another candidate, but I wouldn't give this guy the award. You could have said Will Levis when he came into the game for Penn State. Like they scored blows obviously largely to Ohio State turnovers, but he came in and they scored 17 points. But obviously that wasn't a sustainable offense. Just basically running the Tim Tebow offense, pounding him up the middle.
Right.
Yeah. We saw Ohio State a little bit vulnerable to that too against Wisconsin. So, maybe that's something that's either got to be cleaned up or that Clemson could expose on tape. But
yeah.
For now, we'll send the Jeremy Lin Knicks jersey to Matt Fink. I really like that.
Nice.
All right, next one, probably my favorite one of the night, and this is Addison's award. So he's gonna go first. But this is the Lance Stevenson Born Ready Award for irrational confidence. So this is the thing that thinks they're better than they actually are. Addison, what do you think?
All right. Well, my first nomination for this was Texas and / Sam Ehlinger because all the hype they were getting at the beginning of the year, and if you go back to the Sugar Bowl last year after they beat Georgia, Ehlinger's up there and he goes, "Texas, we're back." He's like such an idiot, and then they go on and have a pretty shitty season by Texas standards. So. Like Nick mentioned earlier, a lot of us saw it coming for Texas. We didn't think that they were as good as their record indicated last year. They won a game against Georgia where we didn't think Georgia was really that into the game. So, I didn't think that Texas, going into the year, should have been as highly rated as they were. So they are my pick on that one.
Yeah. I think I added a couple guys or a couple. Yeah, I added Tate Martell, and I know this guy's a former Buckeye, but he transferred, and I think gave off the impression that he felt like he just was going to walk into the U and take that quarterback job, and he ended up being pretty much like third string or slash like a slot receiver. So I feel like very irrational of him to think he was just going to go down there and just walk in and be handed that job. So I felt like he was a candidate.
Yeah, that's another really good nomination too. Like he obviously he thought he was gonna be the guy because that's why he went there.
Yeah. I listed DTR. I don't really think he's a true candidate. I felt like he actually played pretty damn well for a few week stretch in the middle of the year and then not so great at the end. But I had him on there. And then, Tolman, did you want to talk about the two coaches real quick?
I mean, yeah, you could say Harbaugh. He's been a pretty sore loser lately.
Yeah.
And I think stubbornness, sticking to this kind of old school style football, old school style, just like the way that you talk, displays an arrogance that is not producing on the field right now, especially against their rival.
Yeah.
I'll also always say Franklin because he's got all these gimmicks and ways to like get recruits and like hype up the fans, and their team is just like a 9-3 team, always to me, and just like not going to make the necessary coaching adjustments, in the game to win a big game.
Right.
So, but I think my vote is going to be with Texas and Sam Ehlinger.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I think it's really close between Ehlinger and Tate Martell, but I will say that we should ship this thing to Austin and let Sam Ehlinger walk around saying we're back with this shit. So
yeah. Hey Nick, even though Tate's runner-up, I want to tell a Tate Martell story that also kind of
go for it.
Shows you how
this could swing the vote. This could swing the vote.
This could, yeah. I'm listening.
Yeah.
This is a funny story that we were laughing at in the off season, but apparently. So he was originally committed to Texas A&M, and then, and even before that, I think at some point he might have been committed to Washington too. So
he was, yeah.
Had a reputation for like jumping around to different schools anyway. But like someone asked him why he was like going to A&M, like on a Twitter DM, I think, and he had this like long rant kind of, and he was like, the only other guy at Texas A&M is Nick Starkel, and he's ass, my dude.
Yeah.
And then he ended up not even going there anyway.
Right.
Nick Starkel kind of gave him shit about it too after. So
that actually changes my vote because now I think like the trophy is we send Tate Martell like a Twitter DM of like a signed photo of Lance Stevenson blowing in LeBron's ear. I think that's the award that goes to Tate via DM on Twitter.
I'm good with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Look up the story too, Tolman, if you haven't heard about it.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So probably might be the team favorite award tonight. We have to troll these guys. So this is the Clay Travis Joey Galloway award for either worst bet, especially like if it's like you bet a public side and you just shouldn't have taken the bait. So
I also, Tolman, I like the name for this award.
Yeah.
Just because it's like the Big Ten type of award.
Yeah, we had to have one in there. So this is the Travis Galloway award for worst, like I guess sucker bet or even like a worst bet. So Addison, do you have any good candidates here?
Yeah, I mean, I fell for this one, so I kind of have to go with it. The Maryland against Temple.
Yeah.
I knew it going in too. I said that, and I was doing well at the beginning of the year, and I was like, "Fuck it, I'm just going to take Maryland." And then that ended up looking pretty embarrassing. So, that's what I would go with. Maryland against Temple. had Maryland at -6.5 too, and they seemed like they were never in that game either. Like they had no chance of ever covering. They could have won a close game at the end, but they were losing the entire game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tolman, your candidates?
Yeah, I didn't actually make this bet, but I thought that I think it was like 70% of the tickets on Georgia, but that was kind of that reverse line movement, which indicated probably a lot of sharp action on South Carolina that won the game on the field in a rainy atmosphere. So that was one notable public side that line seemed too good to be true for Georgia when we thought they were good.
Yeah, I just added one that I remembered because I had a little better's regret where I really wanted to take Georgia Tech all week at Miami. Miami was a double-digit favorite, and Corey kind of convinced me to not do it, which should have made me probably do it this year. And Georgia Tech ended up. Did they win that game outright? I think, maybe they lost in overtime, but Miami is traditionally they've been horrible as a double-digit fave recently, and I felt like that. I remember seeing that almost all of the betting tickets were on Miami, but there was so much more money going towards Georgia Tech. So my nomination is gonna be Maryland versus Temple. I think I was on that too, and I remember thinking that I did well before the game happened because I think I beat the closing line by 3 or 3.5 points, and it didn't even matter. Temple was obviously the right side, and we found out Maryland, as we alluded to twice in the show already, it was a big joke and is a big joke.
Yeah, I think Maryland versus Temple. If you're on Maryland's side, that's the side that Clay Travis and Joey Galloway definitely would have been on.
100%. Yeah.
Probably at what did it open at -8 or something like that.
Nah, it was short. It was like -4 or 5, and it closed at 7 or 7.5, I think.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
That was a huge reverse line movement there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Clay Travis and Joey Galloway were probably on Maryland there. So
Clay Travis was probably really high on Mike Loxley too. So yeah, it seems like something he would do.
Yeah.
So we do have a conspiracy corner for the night.
Nice.
I've been spending some time. I've actually been putting together my top 3 conspiracies of the last decade that are things that you might have heard a little bit about, but are a little bit lesser known. So I'm gonna nominate those for the Epstein didn't kill himself award.
Another good award, dude.
Yeah.
And then just hear your guys' thoughts on them, and I'll actually let you guys pick which one you think is the craziest. But first one is why Nick Saban did not go to Texas. There were rumors swirling that he had a $10 million offer from Texas after losing the Kick 6 game, and that there was some frustration there. And I think the story that was told was his wife just didn't want to uproot their lives, move to Austin because they had just a lot of good things going on in Alabama. The conspiracy is that Mercedes-Benz kicked in a lot of money to the Sabans to keep them in Alabama. So Mercedes-Benz has a big plant, manufacturing plant in Huntsville. So strong presence in Alabama. Shortly after, the Sabans ended up with multiple Mercedes-Benz dealerships across Alabama and Tennessee, and they still own them. So maybe Mercedes-Benz kicked in some money to keep the Sabans in their U.S. home state of Alabama.
Wow, yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Second one is remember DeAnthony Thomas?
Oh yeah.
Electric playmaker from Oregon. He was seemed to be a very, very strong commit to USC. I think this was back in 2010, 2011, and to the point, he had relationship with Snoop Dogg. He had was recruiting players to join USC, and then at the last minute he flipped to Oregon. So the conspiracy is that he when he was in high school, he kind of wrong place, wrong time, witnessed a murder, and then because he was in the wrong place, spoke up about it to the authorities, and a gang put a hit out on him, and that's why he ended up flipping at the last minute and going to Oregon to get away from that.
Wow, Jesus, I never heard that. That's crazy.
Yes, crazy.
Wow.
So the last one, this is the one that's probably going to be my vote. But so what happened in the 2012 national championship game to LSU? Famously, just like kind of an all-time LSU team with the talent that they had. They had NFL running backs. They had like guys like Spencer Ware, Alfred Blue. On defense, it was like one of the most dominant defenses we probably saw this decade. Honey Badger, Mo Claiborne, who's really good in college.
And everyone talks about LSU's resume this year, how good it is. I think they had a better one that year. Like they beat some really good teams that year.
Yeah, and just the guys they had, they were a dominant team. So they playing in the national championship game, which, correct me if I'm wrong, that was in the dome, that was in the Superdome, so like kind of a home game for them against Alabama.
Yeah.
And final score was 21-0. Alabama kicked 5 field goals. And the offensive stats from LSU, they had 79 total yards. So just a completely pathetic performance. So there are several conspiracies that I learned about just while living in New Orleans about what might have happened in this game. They're pretty crazy. So one of them is Greg Williams, who was, I guess he was suspended, dismissed from the Saints at the time. Kirby Smart, who was the defensive coordinator for Alabama, was quoted after the game giving credit to Greg Williams, who helped him game plan for LSU. So the theory is that Greg Williams actually sold the playbook to Kirby Smart and Alabama to help with that defensive game plan. Okay, they get crazier.
Right.
Y'all remember T-Bob Bear?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Offensive lineman for LSU. So rumor that he got into a brawl at halftime with Jordan Jefferson.
Oh God.
who is kind of going to end up being the scapegoat for these conspiracy theories. So this is I can't believe that this is not the craziest conspiracy theory, but rumor that the black players for LSU threatened to boycott the game if Les Miles started Jarrett Lee over Jordan Jefferson.
Oh wow.
And Jordan Jefferson, I think Jarrett Lee had been better for them that year. Jordan Jefferson had been in some trouble, been suspended for several games. When he came back, just wasn't as effective. Jordan Jefferson in the 2012 national championship game, 11 of 17 for 53 yards and an interception, 14 carries for 15 yards.
Do you remember his interception? He just flipped the ball right to an Alabama guy.
Yeah, so which leads to probably the craziest conspiracy in my vote. Jordan Jefferson owed money to a bookie and threw the game.
Yeah, I remember you teasing that.
That's the craziest thing I heard. So that's my vote.
Yeah, I remember you teasing that. That one for me, along with the DeAnthony Thomas one, is just nuts.
Yeah.
I think I got to vote for DeAnthony Thomas. Like having to get away from like a gang hit, so you go up to Eugene to play. That's insane. If that's even close to being true. So I think I'd give the slight edge to that. But there's a part of me that hopes that Jordan Jefferson owed a bookie money, just because that's so crazy. So Addison, your vote?
I really like the DeAnthony Thomas story too. I hadn't heard about that before, but. Yeah. It seems plausible to me. That seems like something that could happen in LA. So,
yeah.
I like that one. Other ones I've thought of just while we're, talking about it a little bit. Just how Urban Meyer ended up at Ohio State.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a whole season to scout out the competition in the Big Ten.
Yeah. Um, and Trevor Lawrence might be an alien, I think. That's fun.
Yeah, that would be.
But yeah, I like the D'Anthony Thomas one. That's my vote.
Okay.
I think what we'll do is instead of anything morbid that could be related to Jeffrey Epstein, we will make a trophy of Trevor Lawrence as an alien, and we'll send that to D'Anthony Thomas for this award.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So all right, so we're gonna get back to some of the final awards of the night. So this one is the Kendall Roy Disappointing Son Award. Y'all watch Succession on HBO?
No, but I was wondering what this was. Yeah, go ahead.
So Kendall Roy is this show on HBO Succession. Kendall Roy is like the son of like a very, very rich like Rupert Murdoch, Roger Ailes type like media mogul.
Okay.
And he is a complete and total fuck up. He's a drug addict. He in one episode actually literally like wakes up and has like pooped the bed. He's like supposed to be the heir to this big company, but blows deals and then ends up like routing out his father for doing something bad at the end. So Kendall Roy Disappointing Son Award this is just the most disappointing player of the year. Nick, I know you had some good candidates here.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking of some guys as we go, but I felt like Jake Fromm's a pretty obvious candidate. I know that he didn't have a whole lot of help from his offensive coaching staff, which I think you could argue very possibly could cost Georgia a title chance this year, or did cost them a title chance. Receivers were hurt and young and not as good, so it's not all on Fromm, but I felt like he still could have played a lot better. I felt like he really regressed this year to the point where there are people saying that he should stay for his senior year, which is a big difference from the beginning of the year when people were saying this kid was possibly a top 5 draft pick. Kellen Mond, we talked about him at the beginning of the year as a possible surprise, like dark horse Heisman candidate. He just hasn't played very well. A&M just brutal schedule, but I felt like he could have done better. Adrian Martinez banged up a little bit, didn't play as well. Nebraska overall just a big disappointment. I'm actually surprised we haven't talked about them at all yet. And then Khalil Tate, another one that we talked about for a couple years now as a dark horse Heisman candidate, and he was just bad. Someone was playing the kid behind him at the end of the year, so he got benched, which is pretty bad. And then I just added Sam Ehlinger. We've talked about him, but I don't know if you guys had any more off the top of your heads.
These are all really good because these are all quarterbacks who I feel like all regressed.
Yeah.
Khalil Tate. I feel like he got benched a few times this year.
He did, yeah.
So I was very surprised, how bad he was this year because, like you said, Nick, we were thinking that he could have a bounce back year. That didn't happen at all. I think he just got worse.
Yeah.
I was thinking at first I was like, Fromm, it's not like he's bad.
Right.
But here's the thing that puts it over the top for me. So we're talking about most disappointing. And I think when Georgia fans see the fact that Justin Fields is in New York for the Heisman and they're still left with Jake Fromm, and the fact that he's on a high-profile team, even though not all of it is his fault, but just the way that offense played, it's obviously a huge problem for them because their defense was really good. And if you think, could Fields have done anything different? I mean, maybe his running ability makes their offense a little more dynamic. So, things like that, that's the reason that I'm going to go with Jake Fromm.
Yeah, I think I'm personally gonna give Fromm a pass on this one just because I think he was victim of some circumstances like receivers and conservative play calling.
Yeah.
My vote here is Khalil Tate. He was like a real Heisman contender like a few years ago, and could have come back this year, but benched and just awful performance from Khalil Tate.
Yeah, Addison, if you wanted to double down on Fromm, the fact that not only that Fields left, but the fact that Trevor Lawrence is from Georgia also. So I don't know, maybe Georgia fans feel like I don't know if Lawrence ever seriously considered Georgia, but it's not like I said. I agree. It's not that Fromm's bad. I think he's a good quarterback, but I think he definitely could have done better this year. Tolman, I'm with you. I think Khalil Tate has just been. This is like 2 years in a row now of just complete disappointment from him, from that team. Kevin Sumlin, who we've talked about before, he's just not a great head coach. Khalil Tate is my nominee.
Is he coming back next year?
Sumlin?
No,
Khalil
Tate.
Well, he should.
I mean,
I think he's only a junior, right?
The thing is that's the kid that Sumlin's been playing is a kid that he recruited, I think, and I think it's yeah. So I don't know, man. Maybe he convinces Khalil Tate to play another position, but I'm not sure.
All right, so I guess we're gonna send Khalil Tate some poopy bed sheets for the Kendall Roy Disappointing Son Award.
Yeah. I have no problem with that. He's a worthy winner. I feel like, the fact that he's had 2 disappointing years in a row too is kind of like a lifetime achievement award too.
Yeah, for real. Right.
Nice.
Yeah. All right.
Nice.
Next award.
All right. Next award is this is the Kurt Warner Award for Most Improved Player.
All right.
So could either be someone that came out of nowhere and impressed, or someone that we knew about. We kind of had always had high expectations for, but never really panned out. And now we're high on. So someone that either went from bagging groceries to good, or went from or really met expectations this year. So Addison, do you have your Most Improved Player award?
Well, we've got number 3 on there. So number 3 is that's what we always call Damon Arnett. Obviously at Ohio State, if you've watched Ohio State football, you know that hasn't always played well. He likes to talk a lot, so that's when you're not playing well and you talk, that definitely rubs people the wrong ways, especially fans of the team. So a lot of people weren't happy with him for a while, but he's definitely had a really good year, I would say. And I thought that going into the year, the change in defensive staff could help him, and it's definitely worked out for him. So, and he's played most of the year with a broken wrist, so that's just another thing he's had to overcome, and he's had a good year. Ended up being second team All Big Ten also. So
yeah,
great year for him.
I'll get to him in a sec. I added Tanner Morgan. I think when he did play last year, he was pretty good. He was definitely not a shoo-in to win this award, or to be Minnesota's starting quarterback at the beginning of the year. But he ended up having to be the quarterback because what was the other kid's name? I don't even remember now. Axelton, I think, or whatever. Yeah, whatever.
something Scandinavian.
Yeah, there were a lot of there were like sources saying that they thought he won the job and he got hurt, and so Tanner Morgan had to be the starter. And I tell you what, he had a really good year. He was a big reason, a big part of why that all those RPOs, that offense was clicking. He made a lot of good decisions. They throw a lot of skinny posts and a lot of slants to those NFL receivers, and I felt like he came up big for them pretty much most all of the year, minus like the Wisconsin game pretty much. So I felt like he was a good candidate. Number 3, Damon Arnett. I mean, us 3 that are on the pod right now tonight, we're Ohio State fans, and I love, these kids that come and play, and I root for them, but I've been really hard on this guy because he was, in my opinion, awful, the first 3 years of his career. And this year, though, I feel like this award has to go to him, in my opinion, because as Addison alluded to, he's out there with a club. I mean, he's out there with a broken wrist, and he very arguably has been one of the better number 2s as far as corners are concerned in the country, I think. I mean, he's been really good. So I felt like, with the new coaching staff, I was hoping he would just be serviceable and maybe Sean Wade could take over for him at some point in the year. But he's been so good outside that we've been able to put Wade on the inside against tight ends and slot receivers. So that's my nominee is in fact number 3, Damon Arnett.
That's your vote
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
Yeah. So the other one I came up with was Jack Cohn.
yeah.
You know, not impressive at all last year. I can't even remember how much he played last year, to be honest with you. But he was at times great for them. Overall, pretty efficient. Didn't make too many mistakes, but I think his life got ended to end the
Yeah,
Big Ten
Proctor
championship
killed
game.
him.
So
Yeah.
we'll give it to number 3.
I think Cohn's still laying on the field.
Yeah, I mean, Cohen can't win it because I want the person to be alive to be able to enjoy our award. So it's got to go to number 3.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So the next award, there's probably only one candidate, but this is the Tom Rinaldi Award for most inspiring story. Nick,
Yeah.
who you got?
Yeah, this is the only candidate that, in my opinion, should be on here. Casey O'Brien, we talked about this. He was a winner on our pod the week that this happened, but he is a 4-time cancer survivor or something like that. And PJ Fleck put him into, I think he was holding for a kick for an extra point or something like that. And he there was a very, you'd call it a touching moment when he comes out to the sideline and he and PJ hug it out for a solid minute. And, PJ got pretty emotional. And to be honest, when I was watching it, I just thought it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen because you just see this kid who, football, you could tell, was just a big part of his life. And he had a strong passion for it. And the fact that all he wanted to do was just be a part of the team, and he got to go out there and be on the field for a snap. And I don't think there should be another candidate. I think that was one of the coolest things I've seen in a long time in sports. So I felt like he gets this award.
Any arguments, Addison?
No, I like that one.
Yeah, cool. All right, Casey O'Brien gets the Tom Rinaldi Award.
We're gonna send Rinaldi to his house to interview him.
Perfect. already again. Because I'm sure ESPN has exploited that several times this year already on game day. Yeah. All right. So getting into the last of the awards, really important one here. So this is the James Dolan Dumpster Fire Award.
Oh yeah, I can't wait for this one. Yeah.
Anything he touches is terrible. New York Knicks, worst franchise in professional sports.
Yep.
So James Dolan Dumpster Fire Award. I'm going to throw in a couple of my nominees that I don't think we need to spend too much time on. I had Florida State and Missouri. I thought their seasons were dumpster fires, but I think they've made coaching changes in the positive direction.
I agree.
Eli
totally,
Drinkwitz from App State for Missouri, Norvell for Florida State. So I'll just move on from those and let you guys. But Addison, you have any dumpster fire programs right now? Programs in the worst shape?
I think Michigan State's a solid candidate here. I love D'Antonio. I have obviously from the time that he was at Ohio State. But the game is just Michigan State is not playing 21st century football, that's for sure. They still seem to look like they think they can just win with defense, which isn't even close to the case. You just watch them the past couple of years. I mean, especially now, we've seen that, the top teams, you have to have offense. Look at Bama. LSU,
you have to be able to pass.
Ohio State.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
Quarterback, I used to think that quarterback didn't matter in college football, and that's changing now.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely a lot harder to win with just a game manager like Craig Krenzel, Jake Coker type quarterback.
Yep.
This year, in this day and age, than it was, even a few years ago. So, with that in their offense, being so basic as it is, they're just falling behind everyone else.
Yeah.
And with Ohio State in as good a shape as we've ever been, Penn State's in really good shape, Michigan, in the division, it's always going to be hard for them. And if they stay with have, it's just probably going to keep getting worse for them. So that's a good nominee. Arkansas, Nick, which you just added.
Yeah.
I think is the best one in my opinion. It's just a program that's been trash for a while, fired Chad Morris this year, playing in the tough SEC West. They're easily the worst program there. It looks like for them, there's like no hope right now, in my opinion. They just missed out on Lane Kiffin. So, it doesn't look like, like it seems like they're rock bottom right now. So,
yeah, they have a loud coach now, so we'll see how that goes. Players, his name's like Sam Pittman or something.
Yeah,
like that.
they hired
line coach from Georgia.
Yeah, correct.
Oh yeah, I did see that today. I think.
Yeah.
Former Brett Bielema assistant. So just because of the association with Bielema, I'll probably have to also hand that award to Arkansas.
Yeah, I think this one was tougher. Like, Tolman, I totally agree with you on Florida State and Missouri. I thought they both made great hires. So I can't see them being a part of this anymore. But Michigan State is certainly a candidate. I don't buy what Manny Diaz is selling down in Miami. I don't think that program's in the best of shape. But I don't think they're in as bad of shape as Michigan State or Arkansas right now. Arizona, I put on the list, but the thing is, I think there needs to be
Kevin Sumlin's trash.
Yeah, and there needs to be like some level of expectation. Like, so the other programs I think they expect a little bit more, at least like their fan bases and their administration do. So, if we want to give it to Arkansas, I think that's a legit. I think they deserve it just because they're really bad, and like I don't see how they I just can't see them improving enough to where like they're all of a sudden in even decent shape. It's just really bad down there right now.
Yeah, I think their fan base deserves better. I think they are really good fans.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah,
college football is better if they're relevant.
Yeah.
So I think we're giving this award to Arkansas.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, Nick, who is your winner of the year? You can only pick one thing.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I tried to think of maybe some other candidates, but I have to go with Joe Burrow. This is, obviously he's going to win the Heisman Trophy. Can you guys believe this shit? I saw this on Twitter that there are some like books or entities still taking bets on him to where like guys are laying $10,000 to win like $700, and the books are taking it, and it's a guaranteed win. Like he is 100% winning the Heisman Trophy. So that's kind of interesting to me. But I think from even just a on the field standpoint, like this is a guy that was Ohio born and bred. He dreamed of being a Buckeye his whole life. He breaks his wrist or hand or whatever he broke when he was in that competition with Haskins, and that allowed Haskins to get the slight, upper hand. And Haskins had a great year, and not taking anything away from him, but we knew, people that knew the program, kind of inside and out, we knew how good Joe Burrow could possibly be, and go to a place that he didn't know anything about. I don't think he had any ties to really Louisiana. To go down there and to not only just even fit in, but to be the main part. Well, you could argue maybe Joe Brady a little bit, but to be the the guy that is the engine behind a team that is a very legitimate national title contender now. I just can't say enough about how much or how good of a dude this guy is, and from everything I've heard, and how well he's adjusted to life down there in Louisiana. So he's my winner of the year.
Addison, who's your winner of the year?
Well, trying to choose between the I think are 1-2 for the Heisman. So either Chase Young or Joe Burrow. I'm gonna go Joe Burrow too, just because I would pick him for the Heisman. So yeah, pretty much, Nick. We've all seen him play this year, so
yeah,
we know what he's done. And the improvement from last year to this year, like we expected him to improve. I'd say probably we were all thinking that, but not this much. Like it's just been unreal this year. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Joe Burrow also.
Yeah, so Chase Young, just did something, really was kind of an outlier. You don't too many times see defensive performances like that. But the winner of the year is going to be Joe Burrow. Went from 90-1 Heisman odds and what a third-day pick in the NFL to probably the number 1 overall pick and going to win the Heisman.
I personally know guys that bet him at 200-1.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think Joe Brady had a little bit to do with it, but let's give the winner of the year to Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
All right, Addison. Who is the loser of the year? Your favorite category?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one to me is easy. So I'm going to go with Willie Taggart. After obviously a terrible year for Florida State, Willie Taggart gets fired, and then the whole. And I haven't heard any follow-up to this, but the whole maybe he didn't sign his contract or something and isn't going to get that $18 million buyout, I think is just the icing on the cake here.
Yeah.
And, Willie Taggart, that puts him over the top, in my opinion.
Got hired by Florida Atlantic, right?
He did.
Yeah.
I didn't see that. That must have just happened. Huh?
Yeah, it happened, I believe, today.
Well, he can go back to a smaller or a non-power Florida school and see if he can.
I'm just wondering this time if he actually signed the contract. He's my loser of the year as well. I felt like I could make a case for D'Antonio just because, in the offseason, he just shifts around his coaching staff. Like Michigan State tells him like you need to make changes, and he just takes like the secondaries coach or like the D-back or the defensive backs coach, makes him the receivers coach. He kept Jim Bowman on the staff. That's automatic qualification for being a loser of the year because Jim Bowman's just a loser in life. But I think that I could have made a case for him. I think, Tolman, I see you have the NCAA listed on there. We got Tom Herman on there. I think those are both very viable candidates. But I have to go with Willie Taggart, and the thing that puts it over the top is the fact that not only did you run your dream job and program into the ground, but now you might not even get paid $18 million. Like, loser, dude. Big time loser of the year.
Yeah, so D'Antonio was the loser of the year for me because what put it over the top was if you're still employing Jim Bowman and the Walrus in 2019, like you are the loser of the year by default.
Yeah.
But it sounds like
it's pretty amazing that the Walrus is still around.
Yeah.
It sounds like so. I think what we're going to do is we are going to send Willie Taggart a voided check for $18 million. Just so that's his trophy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could send him like some Monopoly.
I was going to say that, Addison. I was going to say we should send him $18 million in Monopoly.
Non-sequential.
Yeah.
Monopoly. Monopoly ones.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Little boardwalk property card.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
All right. So the bonus award, we have to decide who is the real Mr. Fumbles of 2019. Our favorite award, heavily debated amongst the group chat. The candidates are Jalen Hurts, Bryce Perkins, who we thought was Mr. Fumbles, who was the originator of the name, and also Shea Patterson. So, guys, who's the real Mr. Fumbles?
Go ahead, Addison.
I think it's Shea Patterson. He has the most fumbles in this group that we mentioned. He has 11 fumbles on the year. That's obviously quite a lot.
Right.
Not good at all. So, yeah, he is my pick for Mr. Fumbles.
I'm going to go – this is tough. I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts. I just, there's just been so many times this year that he has cost them in the red zone specifically. And I've seen him a few times, maneuver around guys. Like, Tolman, you know the one I think you both do, where he put the ball behind his back like it was like a basketball play.
Yeah.
And, there's so many times that he did shit like that he got away with it. And I'm sure Mel Kiper's going to be jerking off to the fact that Jalen Hurts has like size 100 hands because you can only do that if you have those size of hands. So I think just because of how many times he did turn it over, but then how many other times that you could argue he probably should have turned it over, I'm going to give it to Jalen Hurts.
Yeah,
that's a good point. He was kind of loose with the ball. I mean that he's not protecting it.
Yeah.
Running around in the backfield trying to avoid sacks, and he's not putting the ball away or anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah. So I guess I get to be the final decider here, but Jalen Hurts for me, I thought his fumbles were in the biggest games. And look, this is the best nickname come up this year in the group. Love Mr. Fumbles.
Yeah.
You know, Mr. Fumbles is going to be playing relevant football, so if this is a title belt, we'll see if he keeps the title belt. And for the Mr. Fumbles award, we'll send him a dick in a box.
Yeah, fair enough.
That just would be funny. See what you do with that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the end of the awards. All of the Dixon boxes and DM tweets will be sent out once the podcast is up.
All right, yeah. So yeah, as far as like I said, beginning of the show, we'll be back within the next few weeks with. I know we're going to have a for sure playoff pod breakdown. We'll talk about both the games, obviously, and then I'm assuming that if you guys want to, we can throw in. We can make that all one pod. We could do just like some. Like, we don't have to do all the New Year's Six bowl games, but we can throw a couple of those in, or we can talk about maybe an interesting bowl game that's not even a New Year's Six bowl game. But we will definitely get you guys, you loyal viewers and listeners, we'll get you, our betting angles, our bets that we've made for bowl season. And like I said, guaranteed we will discuss the playoff games. And then after that, there'll be a 2-week break until the national championship, obviously. So I think we will have a final in-season pod for that game, and then we'll see after the season what we'll maybe have like a little kind of breakdown of, I don't know, something involving like
coaching changes.
Yeah, like we'll get into coaching changes. I think last year we did a pretty poor job of sticking with this through the playoffs, and we didn't really do anything in the offseason. I think this year we probably will agree that we'll talk about like maybe some recruiting stuff, coaching changes. Transfer portal is a big part of college football now, so that's going to change things. But we'll kind of talk about like maybe like I have some power ratings that will need reset, and we'll talk about maybe some way too early, maybe top 5, top 10 list types of things. So if you guys have any thoughts of your own, or any, if you have any other interesting awards that you want to throw in with some candidates or something, then we're down for that. But otherwise, we will see you guys.
We'll give a shout out to those awards, and maybe make it as part of the award show next year too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, but yeah, otherwise we will see you guys within the next few weeks to talk about bowl season and the playoffs.
Can you hear that?